Multiple major changes are coming to the Denver Nuggets after we just got an absolutely huge update on a key member of last year's Nuggets roster, and this will have an effect on the future of Cameron Johnson, someone who has been brought up in a lot of trade talks recently. And because it has an effect on Cameron Johnson, it means it's going to have an effect on Christian Braun and his future with the Nuggets as well. And because of that, it means it's going to have an effect on Peyton Watson and his future with the Denver Nuggets as well. Because a lot of these guys are intertwined right now as the Nuggets try to figure out everything they want to do in free agency. And we have a new update that has an effect on all this. And we're going to dive right into this as always, guys. Real quick, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to Nuggets Digest. I was not kidding when I said we are on that grind because, guys, we are on that grind right now, and 60% of you guys watching are not currently subscribed. It's completely free to subscribe and get ready for a lot of Nuggets content now that the offseason is officially here. And we're not going to waste our time. We're going to jump right into things. Look, overall, there was a lot of talk surrounding everything with the Denver Nuggets and what they're going to have to do in free agency. There's been some players who we've had a feeling are not going to come back, some key players like Tim Hardaway Jr., who did hit the free agency market, and we knew that there'd be teams with interest in free agency, as the Miami Heat did have strong interest in signing Tim Hardaway Jr. in free agency, and then it was announced that, well, free agent sharpshooter Tim Hardaway Jr. has agreed to a deal with the Miami Heat. Sources tell ESPN Hardaway agreed to a one-year, $6.5 million deal with the Heat. Miami officials finalized the deal with Mark Bartelstein of Priority Sports tonight. I know he wasn't great in the playoffs, but the Nuggets weren't very deep anyway, so this sucks. But we're going to dive into all this and kind of break everything down that we're looking at here because there is a lot to look at with this overall, guys. And look, here's the thing. We look at Tim Hardaway Jr., and I know he wasn't perfect. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he was perfect. He wasn't excellent in the playoffs by any means, but he still came in third in sixth man of the year voting. So not only am I surprised he only signed 1 year, $6.5 million, and it makes for an interesting way to look at the rest of free agency. Yes, that includes Peyton Watson, but at the same time, it does make you wonder why this was such a low deal when we knew there'd be interest. Now, Hardaway was not the only person he prioritized for Miami. They're also looking at Mike Conley, who would sign to a minimum deal. Conley's more of a backup point guard than a starter now, but he would still be helpful as a veteran towards a Miami Heat team that's in full win now mode after they just traded half the roster for Giannis. So because of that, there is a lot to look at going here. I mean, look, first and foremost, we look at Tim Hardaway Jr., who now after 1 year in Denver heads out and changes teams once again. He played in 80 games for the Nuggets. He shot 41% from three. He's a solid shot creator, put up 13.5 points. Losing Tim Hardaway Jr. hurts, man. It's not a great moment for this team whatsoever. A lot more pressure is now going to fall on Spencer Jones going forwards for him to play a similar role to what Hardaway played. Obviously, the future of Julian Strawther's a little bit up in the air as well. So we look at the Nuggets, and we have to look at this in a lot of different ways. But also, this has an effect on everyone else. We're going to start with Peyton Watson because he's a free agent, and he could sign at literally any moment when I check my phone. So throughout this, and also since Peyton Watson's the biggest Nuggets free agent right now, here's the deal. We see the signing that Tim Hardaway kind of went with, and it's not a ton of money. If the Nuggets offered that, they likely would have been able to bring Tim Hardaway back or just giving him $7 million over 1 year, and all of a sudden THJ is staying in Denver. Part of the reason the Nuggets didn't re-sign him is because their full focus is bringing Peyton Watson back and trying to figure out financially how to do that. Well, adding another guy on your payroll is not going to do anything to help this situation whatsoever, which is why we're here. But again, it still comes down to two guys on the roster, Cameron Johnson and Christian Braun. Johnson's the easier one to trade. He's on an expiring $20 million contract, and he's an excellent shooter. There's a guy who was solid this season, maybe not everything we hoped he would be, but overall still a guy who could give you 15 points in a night and was going to shoot over 40% from three. That's what Cameron Johnson does. The defense was not as good as it was in Brooklyn or in his later years in Phoenix, which was part of the thing that hurt this team. But at the same time, you still have to look at Cameron Johnson and understand that he has to be moved on from. Because, remember, not re-signing Tim Hardaway Jr. isn't freeing up $6.5 million. It's just not having paid $6.5 million. They are still in a position where trading one of Cameron Johnson or one of Christian Braun is important. The thing is, now we have to look at Johnson more. And the reason is because it's way more likely that the Nuggets get a viable role player when they try to cut some costs and trade Cam Johnson. Teams like the Chicago Bulls or Memphis Grizzlies or, I mean, the Brooklyn Nets, for instance, could all still make a play for Cameron Johnson. The Lakers could make a play for Cameron Johnson. And in return, the Nuggets will cut some costs and also likely be able to get back a role player who you can at least use on this team. Right now, the Nuggets' biggest problem is there is no bench on this roster, really, outside of a few players here and there. So this is not a great update right here. Bringing back Peyton Watson becomes so much more imperative right now. Christian Braun is a wing, someone who could start or come off the bench. So now Braun, keeping him matters a little bit more and hoping for the bounce back. But it also becomes evidently clear that with Hardaway signing that small of a contract, there is a world that maybe Peyton Watson doesn't get the crazy money that a bunch of people are expecting him to. Jalen Duren has ended up getting a pretty big contract, or it seems like it's on that way for happening in Detroit. But at the same time, we look at the other big restricted free agent in Watson, who, I mean, isn't Jalen Duren. Duren's an all-star, but it does make you wonder what exactly is the best move going forwards here, because I really, really, really did actually think bringing back Tim Hardaway Jr. was a smart move. There's better moves out there. I'm not pretending that there isn't better moves out there, but we now have to find someone else off the bench who can be a three-point shooter. Now, Duncan Robinson is someone who might get waived off the Pistons. He's someone that obviously the Nuggets should look at. Maybe he won't cost that much. He definitely won't cost the contract that he signed last summer. So maybe there is a world that the Nuggets can look at a guy like a Duncan Robinson and hope for the best here. I do think that would make some sense going forwards. But overall, I think this just shows that the Nuggets are so locked in on trying to sign Peyton Watson. And it doesn't, I'm not saying, well, they forgot. No. It's an NBA franchise. No franchise is dumb enough to do that. But the Nuggets right now, they understood they would probably have to let Hardaway go in case they can find a trade they like for Johnson and Braun and decide, you know what, we want to bring back Peyton Watson and we want to make sure that it can be cost effective still for this team, because we know the Kroenkes are very, very, very much unlikely to not be going in to that luxury tax. So we will see what they do after this. Obviously, moves will be made. They have a roster to fill out. We'll see a few different signings get made. I will say, look for Duncan Robinson. Look at maybe Luke Kennard, other guys who could step in and play that shooter role. Neither of them are as good of shot creators, and both of them are quite poor defenders. Hardaway wasn't blowing anyone away defensively, but he wasn't the other two that I mentioned. So we'll see how their contracts look as well. And we will report to you on every other deal that does happen over this free agency period. So guys, like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day. I'll catch y'all later. Darn. Not a great start that we've done nothing also.